Speaker Professor Michael Quay has just ruled on the competence of the motion, which had been something that was on debate before or up for the debate before they got to the substantive matter. And what the minister, what the speaker is saying is that a mere admission of an application does not necessarily mean that the person is associated, or the person who is admitting it is associated with it. And that was in response to Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu's position that what the majority says about the competence of the motion actually questions the competence of the speaker. He also says that a procedural irregularity has been committed and that must be noted for the purposes of Hansard, but that the issue at stake is important, and that's why they're going to the House is going to stand down, but then they're going to come back and the speaker will then deal with the substantive matter, which is whether or not to set up a 5-member committee as been proposed by the minority to investigate the cash for seat matter. Mr. Boyde, let's finish up with what we were talking about previously. Now, let me just take your initial your thought about what has happened so far.
I think that, you know, it's great and it's refreshing to see a certain development in our parliamentary democracy. It is also refreshing to look at Parliament asserting its oversight role, elevating its oversight role. And so let's see how it plays out. Civil society should just keep an open eye. We shouldn't be seen to be taking positions as to whether Parliament should, whether the events that is taking place is necessary, whether a recall of Parliament is necessary or not.
Right.
I think that is, we shouldn't be doing that. My thinking is that let's sit back, let's allow institution of states to work, and let's ultimately see that, look, we hold public officers accountable for the decisions that they take.
Let me find out from you whether the back and forth, it's been about an hour and 30, which they took to debate whether or not this motion was competent in the first place. Let me find out from you whether the back and forth, you know, the debate that went on about the competency of the motion itself will add anything to the final decision that will be made in the House.
Well, the debate, as the back and forth, enlightens us.
Okay.
It brings us issues. Constitutional provisions are being cited. The standing order is being... Let's not forget so soon the Supreme Court, the election petition at the Supreme Court. It was the back and forth, the arguments that also helped in establishing a certain sanity in the election 2016. So I believe every back and forth of this nature helps to enlighten society and make society better.
You were talking behind the scenes about the signatures as well and how it appeared. I mean, the majority is actually complaining that Muntaka Mubarak, who is supposed to be the mover of the motion, has not signed. When he goes to list the people who are sort of backing the motion, he has not signed. But then it appears there's a cover letter or a letter that comes with it that he signed. So the minority argues that, well, his signature is here, he has signed. But at the end of the day, I keep saying the minister, at the end of the day, the speaker says that he then becomes a conveyor of other people's motion. Is that going to do anything to the discussion?
No, it doesn't. But here again, it's also it also helps to, you know, improve the way things are done. So the speaker rightly talked about the procedural issues that, although it will not affect the substantive issue, he will still allow the substantive issues to go on. It is important that we don't repeat such procedures, because the way the memo was written, the Honorable Muntaka, you know, argues that, well, since he submitted a memo, it goes without saying that he is part of the persons. But you see, the memo says that we, the undersigned, your signature was not part of the undersigned.
So it defeats the idea that you are the mover of the motion.
So as it is presented, the Speaker rightly said that he now becomes a conveyor. If he wants to be part of the undersigned, the 30 minutes recess gives him the opportunity to add his signature to it. I don't know, I'm not an expert in parliamentary affairs, but I should think that that is what should be. But I think these are issues that going forward, it will help in our parliamentary issues. For me, what I'm still confused is that if you take 15% of 275, it is 41.25. So if 41 persons sign, it's still not up to 15%.
But 25 is half a person, isn't it?
It is a quarter of a person, but then it's still a person.
So
we don't have a quarter of the person. But you see, if it is 15%, then let it be so. It should rather be more than the 15%, but it should not be less than 15%. 41 persons as less than 15%.
I see.
Yes. So I think that, well, I am not a mathematician and I am not this thing, but I think that it is an issue that as part of the thinking and the going forward, we must begin to explore. That other than that, one day we would have the parliament, what do you call it? If you look at our presidential election, it says that 50 plus 1. And therefore, if you have 50.2 something percent, do you wish away the 2 something percent? No, it looks at the 50 plus 1. So 0.2 something percent becomes 1. It's considered as 1. So here again, if we take 41.25, is it 1? Can we consider, since we cannot cut people in halves and in quarters?
Yeah.
Is it 1, or we just take 41? And 41 is not 15%.
But the Speaker also says that reference to those who have signed or not is neither here nor there as far as the relevant figure is acquired. Does it then mean that the Speaker admits that 41 is good to go?
No, actually, he's actually saying that those who did not sign. I mean, the MDC is about 100 something plus. So out of the 100 something plus, if 41 persons are signed, then the other persons who did not sign does not matter. If the threshold, the minimum threshold, is 15%.
Okay.
So that's what the Speaker was talking about.
Okay.
But for me, the point of contention is that the 0.25, what happens to it? Because if you take the 41%, the 41 figure as an absolute, it doesn't represent 15%.
It doesn't represent 15%. Okay. Well, we'll see how it goes, and when the Speaker comes back, or when the House comes back, we'll see what the Speaker's position will be going forward. But we're also expecting some reactions from Parliament. Joseph Opoku Gakpo, our parliamentary correspondent, and Elton Brobe, former parliamentary correspondent. They are both there, so we're heavily on the ground there to bring you all those responses and their reactions. But the GII, Ghana Integrity Initiative, you are certainly going to back a push for a proper investigation on this matter, even though you want, or you would have preferred a different state institution in investigating this. What difference will it make if those institutions like Schwaj, for example, IOCO, did not carry out this investigation, but that the onus then lies on whichever committee will be put together? That is, if it so happens.
Well, what GI wants is transparency, is accountability. And then beyond the transparency and accountability, we are able to build integrity systems in our public sector. That is what GI wants, because ultimately it is how transparent the public sector discharges services that will help us to be able to fight corruption. It is how accountable we hold public officers that will help us to discharge services optimally.
Okay.
You understand? So that's what the GI wants. Well, it's just that the history of we having parliamentary committees and the fact that we don't. I mean, I hazard to say that if you look at the Shraj report on the conflict of interest, the 2.5
Finance Minister,
there were very interesting recommendations. So, you see, in going forward, you know that at least after such a body does investigation, there would be recommendation that helps to deal
with what happens in the
exactly
future.
In the future. If you take the Jamape committee's report, there were recommendations that helps to sanitize how public service or sports is administered going forward.
But when it comes to the parliamentary committees as well, they also provide recommendations, don't they?
Well, I'm not too sure about that. I can't say. I'm not saying that they don't, but I don't know about that.
They did.
But
I think that the last one, the last such case that was investigated in Parliament that was involving the Mahama Yariga issue, there was a list of recommendations as well. So I think they do recommend. But I believe that you're referring to how the institutions then could lean on those recommendations going forward.
Well, and then also, well, you know, let me also refer you to the merchant bank thing.
Okay, sorry, I'll have to take that briefly, but Elton is already saying something. Okay, let's hear Elton now.
Of this parliamentary sitting. Indeed, prior to the Speaker calling the House into order, both leaders from both sides, met the Speaker in a sitting, meeting ahead of the sitting. That lasted for almost 2 hours. Now, my information I picked is that both leaders, together with the Speaker, agreed on the directive that would have come out of this particular, request for a sitting. Now, I was told that 2 issues came up. One, to set up a 5-member committee to look into this particular matter, or a directive to the Trade and Industry Committee to look into this particular matter. Now, when the issue of procedural matters came in, it changed the whole, structure of what they discussed in conclave to have been the basis for this matter going forward. Now, it does appear that the minority will have to come back, either challenge the Speaker's ruling or correct some of the issues that came up. I can speak to 2 members of Parliament. First, the member of Parliament for Menchanoff, and of course, the member, the second minority chief with Ibrahim, to speak to me on these issues. Honorable Kwalisa Usomanka, happy, excited with the Speaker's ruling?
Well, I think the Speaker has come out with his ruling based on the procedural error as far as this incompetent motion is concerned. And notwithstanding, I'm considering of dragging the minority chiefship to court for presenting a deceptive list to Parliament.
Why not the Privileges Committee?
No, this is House of Records, and we can't allow such things just to go. He must be told in face that he lied to Parliament by misleading of presenting a list without the consent of those petitioners. And it boils down to criminality. And I'm considering dragging him to court.
For presenting
a deceptive
as signatories to a petition.
Yes. I'm sure you've cited the petitioners. Yes. People's names are there without their consent. This is House of Records. You want to deceive Parliament. A whole member who is also in leadership. You are talking about corrupt acts by presenting a case which is founded on baseless and unsubstantiated position.
Okay. Let me get a quick reaction for Ahmed Ibrahim, who is the first deputy whip on the minority side. Did you come to Parliament to deceive the House into agreeing to your request for a probe? Now we have been told that some people were not even informed that their names were on the petition list.
Thank you very much, my good brother. This is an erroneous impression that is being created elsewhere. Even me, I signed as number 4. When you go onto the list, my signature is there. I sign it. But when they were mentioning it, they mentioned, oh, Honorable Ahmed didn't sign. Meanwhile, I've signed it. So I went and took it, and I went and looked at it. My signature is there, viciously. Everybody can see it. So when most of the media men from this honorable, they say you didn't say, it's an impression they are creating. Look, you cannot do a wrong, and when we are calling for investigation, then you use procedural technicalities and say that when we met in the morning.
The House is guided by rules and regulations. You cannot overstep them.
What were they saying? Let me tell you, if that had been the case, the motion couldn't have even come to the chamber. If you present a motion, it is admissibility of the motion is the prerogative of the Speaker. Once the Speaker has, let me come. Once the Speaker has gone through and the Speaker has competently analyzed the motion and seen that there's nothing wrong with the motion, it calls for a constitutional invocation and therefore has summoned the entire Parliament to come to Parliament. You cannot come to the chamber and say that the motion is should be thrown out because of procedural flaws.
The Speaker didn't do a competent job. Is that your analysis?
Between the Speaker and the majority leader, who has the prerogative of admitting a motion? If I bring you a motion and you know that this motion does not worth it, you just have to throw it out. That is why the rules say that the only person, the only personality, and the only authority who has power to summon Parliament under that decision is the Speaker. And once you present the motion to the Speaker, he has 7 days to go through. That is why the Constitution has given the Speaker 7 solid days to go through the motion. When the Speaker has gone through the motion, though Ajao, when he was a Speaker, he turned most of those motions down. When you bring it, this motion does not call for summoning Parliament. So you cannot say, oh, this is the first time we are certain that you have accepted it. Once you know that it's called for investigation, this morning we met the Speaker. He said, oh, he was going to refer the motion to the Trade and Industrial Committee to investigate. We all referred to the Business Committee. We all sat on it. Everybody said, including the majority leader, that the motion must be sent to the Trade and Industry Committee. Then we came to the chamber. They even said we should limit the number of the hours, the times that members are going to comment on it. And that is why, if you check, when Honorable Mutaka was moving the motion, he spoke for only less than 5 minutes because it was a condition that was given. And that's why Okuja told the same thing. So it's like you've said the parameters, we've come, there's a change of mind. And that is why we are waiting to see. It is not only this. Before even we start, there was a session of the majority who were saying that, oh, the House at a point will have to be suspended, then we go and come back. And I went and told the majority leader that this is what your people are saying. What do you say? Oh, my boss, Mutaka, to me, the leader is saying, and you are talking about what they are saying in the chamber, what has happened. So clearly, it's a predetermined thing because I believe in the competence of the Speaker. I believe the Speaker is a professor, he's a lawyer, he's a second deputy Speaker. He's being empowered, he knows all the rules, and he knows that the motion called for serious investigation.
So are you going to challenge? Are you going to challenge the ruling, or are you going to come properly?
Our rules, you cannot challenge the ruling of the Speaker unless you come with a substantive motion, and which must be moved after a certain number of days. So clearly, we cannot do that. He is the Speaker. What minority is looking for is an investigation into whether there was a wrongdoing or not. So it's like we are not looking at...
The wrongs were pointed out to you on the floor of Parliament. What else do you want?
He said we should not go into the motives of this, the substance of the motion. So we can't say that the wrongs... The Speaker himself said that 77 people have signed, even it's past the 41 that was required. Right. Clearly, the procedural action that they are talking of will come back, and the committee will go and investigate, and Ghanaians and the generalities of everywhere will see whether the minority has a case or not.
Your leaders are meeting. I'll allow you to go. In 30 minutes, we will meet on the floor of Parliament, and then we will see the way forward as far as this particular matter is concerned.
There are technicalities. They have another letter that they don't want the substance of the case to be investigated. Right. If they are not afraid, they should allow the investigation to go on.
Let me pick one last thought from a legal practitioner, and then we'll bring this to a close, and then we'll reconvene on the floor of Parliament to bring you more reactions and to hear from the Speaker and the minority side what they intend doing going forward as far as this particular matter is concerned. Mr. Honorable Alexander Aban is the Vice Chair of the Legal Affairs Committee. From your background as a legal person, was the Speaker right, given this directive?
Thank you very much. You see, the Speaker was absolutely right in giving the direction that he did. And I think that he was guided by what we call equity to even come to that determination. Because the point is that sometimes if your procedure is faulted, a judge or a person in an adjudicatory position may decide to even strike the whole thing out. But because the substance of what we are looking for at is quite weighty, he decided to give them a chance to go and correct whatever mistakes there are in the procedures. And then thereafter, we will go into the merits of the case. Let it not be said that the majority, or the Speaker for that matter, does not want this matter to be investigated. Just like if I listened to the minority whip, he was trying to preempt that there is an agenda. There is no agenda. You see, we believe that when Ghanaians are given the full facts, then we would know whether there has been something done untoward by the minister or the ministry for that matter, or there is nothing like that. There is so much propaganda which is being spewed out there that there has been extortion and all these things. I just want clarity on this question, and that will be my final question anyway. The Speaker had 7 days to look through this. If
he had issues, why didn't he reject the motion, ask them to come back properly, but rather waited for the matter to move on the floor and then give this directive?
Thank you very much. The lines we have to draw here is that we have administrative steps and we have adjudicatory steps that are being taken. Let us draw the lines well. That's how people would understand. You see, when you file a motion, right, it will, for instance, if we should use the court as an example, you file a motion and it's incompetent, it is not for the judge to call you, okay, behind closed doors and tell you that, no, this is wrong, this is wrong. No. Administratively, it will go through the procedure or the processes, and then it will be put before the judge. But mind you, the judge would have even read it before coming to sit there. Okay. Right? When he comes to sit, he's not doing any administrative step now. He is now dealing with adjudicatory matters. All right. Okay? That is when all the sides of the argument will be put before him, and then he would say that, look, this is wrong. But we think that substance must take precedence over form. So go and do the letter correction and come back. Right. Because mind you, even though we agree that every time by equity, substance must take precedence over form, it is not for nothing that we have procedure. Otherwise, people can just do anything.
Okay,
right?
Honorable, thank you very much. I'll leave you, but let me speak to your leader, Honorable Sarah Adjasafo, the Deputy Majority Leader. Honorable, your side are claiming that there was some kind of behind-the-scenes arrangement ahead of the plenary sitting, and then some of the things that they discussed in conclave were not factored in. And then some of these things that came up regarding procedural issues, they were taken aback, and they thought the Speaker should have rejected the motion when he saw those things, but rather waited till the matter came on the floor and they gave his directive. What is your take on this?
It's rather unfortunate, but just as the Majority Leader indicated on the floor, the House is a House that is governed by rules and procedure. And Parliament is on recess. And we are recalling every member to come to Parliament under Article 1123 of the Constitution, which requires that you must, if you want to recall Parliament, you need 15% of members to be able to recall, if it's of a national interest. We do not have any problem with coming. Other than that, we wouldn't have come. But we were seriously in for business. But again, the purpose for coming would be executed by procedure. And by procedure, you need to come by a motion. And so the Majority Chief Whip did a memo and attached the third membership that to him will constitute 15%. Right. But he had a whole list of his entire membership, the entire 106, and had some that had signed, some that hadn't signed. And in the memo, he has stated himself, he signed the memo to the Speaker. And you know that if you want to send a memo in any public institution, who the memo is coming from must sign. So the memo is signed. But in the memo, he is saying that to constitute the 15% that is required by the Constitution, he is adding on another list to constitute or to as a proof that he has the third members to recall Parliament. And in that you see flaws. He himself, who is the mover of the motion, has not signed. I mean, that is technically not right. So on a technical basis, the Speaker had no proper motion before him. And you see in the motion, it is not for them to set the agenda for this meeting. In our rules, it is the business committee that sets the agenda for sittings.
And you met before.
And that is why we said we'll meet at 12, and we couldn't meet at 12. Because even that, they were still bantering that it is them and they are setting. Then we went to the rules. Then we realized that we were right, that indeed the practice of the House has been that. That is why even the business statement has to be read the previous week for the ensuing week. So you cannot set an agenda, and in the agenda, you set the agenda, the reason why you are calling Parliament is for the motion. Right. And the motion is a private member motion. and you put it under public business, and you put prayers, you put vote and proceedings. My brother, when we came, was there any vote and proceedings for us to correct? I mean, that is not the reason why we're here. So for me, I think that he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. You are summoning Parliament based on that constitutional mandate that you have. We are not challenging that. We are in for, if they want a query.
Interested to get to the bottom of this matter.
We are very much interested. That is why we could have said that we have adjourned and left, and then they bring another motion for us to be recalled. No, but the Speaker said, and we, the majority, also agreed, that let's suspend. Let them go and do the proper thing that ought to be done in terms of procedure. And
they have nothing to be corrected.
But they'll come back correcting something. You will see. And I could see from their faces that they were taken aback on a number of things. And even some of their members there, they don't even know that there was some list that they should sign. I mean, when you are coming, you need to come properly because it is at the expense of the nation. Members are coming during recess period. And we agree. We in the majority have nothing. You saw the trade minister there. He was ready there. And we were ready as well. But when you have not come properly, you cannot seek equity.
Well, but thank you very much. I will leave you so that you can also join your meeting, and then in 30 minutes time we'll see you in the chamber. All right. So, folks, we'll leave it here and then come back in the next 15 to 30 minutes. The House will reconvene, and then we are waiting to see whether the minority side, Honorable Muntaka Mubarak, will correct the errors identified by the Speaker in his ruling, and then come to the House properly, or he will come and then challenge the ruling of the Speaker. And that will come with a substantive motion that can take like 2 days before that substantive motion can be heard. These are the scenarios being played out as far as the minority side is concerned. As I speak, they are in the meeting deciding the next line of action. Whatever that is, the Speaker has a ruling to make as far as this particular matter is concerned, whether to go ahead and then constitute a 5-member committee as originally agreed at the meeting before the plenary sitting, or to stand on the errors identified in the earlier motion and the memo, and then dismiss this entirely. Whatever the ruling may be, we are here to bring it live to you on JoyNews channel on Multi-TV. My name is Elton Brown. I'm here with my colleague, Joseph Obugugapo.
Elton Brobe there, former parliamentary correspondent there, and of course we've been talking about Parliament, what's happening. Will the 5-member ad hoc committee be set up? I've been in the studio with Michael Wedi of the Ghana Integrity Initiative. Let's wrap up our conversation because I'll be handing over soon to Business Live, but as and when Parliament reconvenes, we'll go there. Let me find out from you, should the 5-member committee be put together? What is the GII's expectation?
Well, I think that the GI would obviously be happy that at least we have an opportunity to go or delve a bit deeper. We don't believe that the president should have made pronouncement or judged the issue based on the briefing that he got. We were expecting that there would be more publication, there would be more detailed publication of what went wrong. There would be some audits, and then we make sure that the state did not lose any resources. But that did not happen. So we're expecting that the committee would delve a lot more deeper than the block figures that were presented to us, and so on, and whether there were any procedural infractions or not, and if there weren't, whether there were some best practices that people can also learn, and other ministries can also learn, and then also go on. Like they say, the devil is in the details. Let's see what the details entails.
Okay, so we'll be here to see what the details are. That's if the committee is set up, and if they will get to the bottom of it and give us that information. Sincere apologies that we're unable to bring you top stories as we told you at the beginning of the show, but we'll bring you a lot more on that and updates at 7 on Joy News Prime. You can also log on to myjoyonline.com for more news and information as well. But right now, Emmanuel Abuajewiafe is standing by with Business Live. But as I indicated, once Parliament reconvenes and they start talking about the cash for seat saga, we'll be there to bring you the updates. My name is Gifty, and many thanks for your time.